Welcome back as we're getting ready for the Pro Men as staging is taking place right now. Getting ready for our call-ups. Talked about yesterday's winner in Spartanburg. Day number 1 in Speed Week, and that was won by Thomas Gibbons. Flying on the inside, a new rider, or not an older rider from Automatic Racing, which is a brand new team, but what a risky move. And there were some riders that weren't very happy with him flying on the inside of Daniel Summerhill to be able to take the win in Spartanburg. So he's the leader of Speed Week. Now, if we're going to switch gears to the leader of the USA Crit Series, it's Kevin Mullervy from Team Cliff Bar, and it's Team Cliff Bar that is leading the team competition, and they have a full squad here to support Mullervy, Zach Allison, the rest of the team to be able to stay in the hunt for the points, and I'm talking about the USA Crit Series points. Again, as a reminder, we're going to have a sprint 5 laps in, also the mid-race point sprint, and 5 laps from the end. 5 places deep, 200 points available at the end. Now, if we're going to talk about the points for the USA Crit Series, our leader right now, we talked about Kevin Mullervy, 269 points. In second place, Tyler Stites from Avolo is not here at 253 points. Then it was Colin Strickland, Stephen Roth, Justin Williams. It's a shame he's not here. One of the most exciting riders to be able to watch race a Criterium. Loved his win last year in Harlem. He had a ton of supporters there. Suffering illness, a little bit sick, so not able to make it out to Athens. 40 years of gears, and I know Justin would like to be able to be here. We saw in the tribute video to Gene Dixon, a celebration of 40 years. Justin's having a few kind words for him. Thomas Gibbons also being able to prepare himself for the Athens Twilight. Now, he's done this race many times but has never won it. And the reason I bring up Thomas Gibbons is because Mullervy is here. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place is not here in the overall series. And so the overall lead is up for grabs. Let's start off with Frank the Tank. You know what? He's been 3rd place here 4 different years. 2013, 14, 15, and last year, 3rd place here at Athens. The 39-year-old out of Athens, Georgia. He's about as local as you can get as we move on to Daniel Holloway, racing for Texas Roadhouse. He comes out of Boulder, Colorado, you know, trying to make that Olympic 2020 track team. Team Pursuit, Madison, racing the 6 days. He's on the current national team for the track program, and he is a 2-time winner, 2014 and 2015 here. Now, if we want to go back to 2012, Luke Keel won here. Texas Roadhouse Cycling Team, also great to be able to see him back. He had a bad training accident last year, so Luke Keel gradually making his way back, and at one point, Luke Keel was pretty much unbeatable. He's from Mooresville, North Carolina. The famous Hincapie cycling team, now called Arapahoe Hincapie, presented by BMC. It's Seth Jones. Ben Renkema, former Criterium national champion. Last year took a first at Rock Hill. Also won the 2nd day of the Detroit race at Corktown. Ben Renkema racing for Palmetto State Medical Cycling Team. Got to watch out for him and Johnny Mitchell on that team. Johnny Mitchell had a crash yesterday, which we'll talk a little bit later on. He's all smiles. He loves it. This is the best part of the bike race for David Gutenplan. He loves celebrating in front of everybody. He's your 2018 overall USA Crit champion. Looking to repeat in 2019, but a rough start in El Paso, not getting the result that he wanted to. Fave Cycling coming out, 21 years old. Nice young rider out of Naperville, Illinois. Recently just came off a 5th place at Boulder, Roubaix. Mark Pro, this is Blake Anton. He's out of California. He raced in Birmingham, managed to get 23rd there. Last year he was 4th at West Bend and 4th at Thousand Oaks. One of the Avolo riders did make it here. He talked about Tyler Stites sitting in 2nd right now, is not here, but Cade Bickmore is. Out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Cade Bickmore, 10th overall in the USA Crit Series. Where's Cesar Gallego? There we go, from Butcher Box Cycling. He's out of Key Gardens in New York. Cesar Gallego getting a call up. Gallego, 25 years old. Wearing the orange leaders jersey from Cola Vida, 31-year-old. It's Kevin Mullervy. He's out of Broomfield, Colorado. He's got his twin brother, also Connor Mullervy, who's on the Cliff Bar team, and so he's here to be able to help his brother and the rest of the team. They want to retain the team competition, but they also want to be able to keep that USA Crit jersey. And like I said, right now, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th are not present here in Athens. And so big opportunity for Thomas Gibbons, who right now currently is the leader of Speed Week, but he is sitting 6th place overall in the USA Crit Series. 7th place just behind him is Luke Keel. And at one point, Luke Keel, one of the fastest sprinters, there he is right there. Got to watch out for him. You don't lose speed, gradually making it back. And the Hollywood Holloway also extremely fast. And the Hollywood Holloway, you know, I can tell he's finding his legs back. And it's not going to come as any surprise. Every single race I've seen where Daniel Holloway has been called up to the front line, normally, I'd say in the first half lap, he attacks. He tries to string it out. He tries to test the waters. Really what he does, he tries to see if anybody is willing to let him go. 40 years of gears as the Athens Orthopedic Clinic Twilight Criterium is about to get underway. And a big thank you to Gene Dixon, the longtime supporter, promoter, organizer, not only of this race, but of cycling and racing all over the entire United States as things are underway. Once again, we're looking at 80 laps. Turn number 1, a very fast downhill. One line to kind of be able to take it. The bad line is on the outside. You don't want to get caught too wide in here because that's where you're going to run into the curb and the hay bales. A lot of the riders in the back, they're going to have to kind of be a little bit patient, perhaps take their time, gradually move their way up through the field to make it into the front. 80 laps, plenty of time to be able to do so. I don't think the race winner is going to come on lap number 1 as we are underway with the Athens Twilight Criterium, and more fans, they are in the bars, then they come out of the bars. They go into the restaurants, and then they come out of the restaurants. Many of them with drink in hand, many of them with food in hand, but all of them having a great time watching one of the most spectacular nighttime criteriums in the U.S. Well, I think that would be no surprise as the rider that is attacking right now up on our screen on the far right-hand side, and Daniel Holloway. You get a call up and almost like you have to attack, and that's exactly how the Hollywood Holloway tackles this. Now, we had talked about Daniel Holloway, and he has won this race 2 times. He was a 2014, he won this race. 2015, he won this race. As a reminder, in 2016, this is when 3 riders actually lapped the field 3 times. That's right, they lapped the field 3 times, and the guy coming out on top, the Canadian Ryan Aitchison. Last year, Ryan Aitchison was back here. He raced, not racing full-time, just kind of came back to kind of enjoy himself once again. It's always good to be able to see Ryan Aitchison. Well, anyways, he was the winner in 2016. Then it was back-to-back wins by Hincapie's John Murphy. So that was John Murphy in 2017 and in 2018. Murphy in 17, it was Ty Magner in 2nd, so those teammates got 1st and 2nd. And same thing in 2018 when the teammates John Murphy and then Brian Gomez in 2nd. Now we talked about Frank Travieso. Got to watch out for Frank the Tank. He's going to be a factor. Talked about 4 times a 3rd in this race, but no matter how many times you ride this race, things have changed as the course is different. Racing counterclockwise, and the start-finish line is on what normally is the backstretch. This is what you're looking at. Normally they go the other way. This is why they're coming in turn number 1. They said a Bee Gees cover band concert last night where the stage is, and they didn't want to move it. Too big, too much of a hassle to be able to move it, and this is why we are situated the way we are. Maybe he's thinking about getting some points. Holloway did not make it to either of the first two, or the first USA Crit race. He was at Sunny King. He rode actually pretty well at Sunny King. I talked about it yesterday, the way he kind of tackled that race. But the first USA Crit point sprint should be coming up, and Daniel Holloway perhaps thinking about trying to be able to gain some points. John Harris getting stronger and stronger. The rider from Butcher Box trying to be able to get up there. Cade Bickmore, the rider from Avolo, coming through the line. Then Kyle Kirby and Willie Myers starting to be able to string it out. No gaps opening up. It's not a breakaway except for these two riders. The rest of the field still in contact with each other. So a ton of horsepower sitting in reserve as it's John Harris and Bickmore trying to be able to bring back Holloway. And you know what? Holloway, he doesn't wait. He doesn't like waiting around. Anton Blake Mark Pro Cycling Team on the front right now. So Daniel Holloway, previous Elite Criterium national champion, has won a ton of races, but look at on the front right now. Butcher Box, John Harris coming over. He used to race from CCB. He's been riding extremely well right now as Bickmore, the young 20-year-old from Avolo's, coming out of the front. Races for Marion College in 2017. He won the conference championships last year with a few wins under his belt. Coming off being a Category 2 as Cade Bickmore, the 20-year-old. He actually raced at Oklahoma City and Tulsa Tough as a Category 2. Can you imagine jumping up from a Category 2 to pretty much this pro level with the speed as fast as this race is going to go? They're going to whip through 80 laps before you know it. Now, going back to Daniel Hollywood Holloway, been racing the 6 days, racing a lot of the track program, trying to be able to make that Olympic team. Actually doing extremely well with many of the riders that are on that team. They actually have a lot of track riders on Texas Roadhouse besides Holloway, like Adrian Hegavari, Danny Summerhill, John Kroom, all of these guys with an extensive track background. Look at the lights going off. It's like a disco DJ, and there actually is a DJ on the stage spinning the music, entertaining the crowd. The VIP sections are on the right side of the stage area and the left-hand side of the stage area. And as a reminder, we're talking about the stage. The podium will take place for the women and men at the conclusion of this race. Well, they brought back 2 riders, but there's one lone holdout, not waiting around for anybody, waiting to see if anybody's willing to be able to come up. We led that chase. Borstelman, a very strong rider. He's got a slew of results already this year. Last year won a stage of Intelligentsia, 10 wins in 2018, and already this year he has 3 wins under his belt. Racing for the Mark Pro Cycling Team. It might be Ed Veal sitting in the second place. He's the rider that attacked yesterday in Spartanburg. Went away for 25 laps by himself. See some riders going into the pit, perhaps a little bit of a crash somewhere. He'll be able to take another free lap as waving the wheel because some riders are getting ready to get back in. Frank Cundiff right there on the right-hand side getting ready to come back in, racing for the David Gutenplan team. Now, a little bit of bad luck. First Internet Bank, they had a good race yesterday. They're going to be a factor a little bit later on. They know 80 laps, you got to kind of play it out a little bit. But they lost Jarrett Oldham, who's had actually a great spring racing kind of calendar so far. But broken collarbone for Jarrett Oldham, and so he's not in this race. in the pit right now, trying to maybe he's looking for a wheel. Well, I thought that was 86. Maybe I read that wrong as 98. Maybe that's Nicholas Ramirez from Bloomington Cycle. Tyler Locke with the long blonde hair. That's rider number 126, also from Gutenplan coaching team, as he's organizing his pedals, getting ready to get back in. That's your winner from Birmingham right there from the Automatic Racing team in all black jersey. Has a big track background. Chad Conley won in Birmingham. He actually made it into the breakaway, then won the sprint coming out of the last corner as Conley's being thrown back in and Tyler Locke is being thrown back in. Arguably two of the largest riders in the race, both getting returned to the race right now. Might be Lachlan Holiday, that young Australian, very aggressive rider. You can see some of the other Texas Roadhouse riders coming through. This is a great camera shot, seeing all the different riders coming through on the backstretch. You can see how bumpy it is. Actually, I ran out to be able to talk with Erica Carney about what happened when she crashed, and she said she was just out of the saddle and she hit one of those bumps when she was kind of shifting her weight to the right, and it just kind of unweighted her and it turned her wheel, her chain came off, and that's how she crashed. Pretty much crashed herself by hitting one of the bumps on the backstretch, and that's how rough it is. But she was all smiles. She said she was okay. She said she was feeling good, and she was more excited about the win from her young teammate, Summer Moak, taking that sprint. Keel Campbell in the red and black. He was a little bit on the right-hand side. I got to him a little bit too late, so I couldn't really point him out as he's made his way up to the front. So got to keep an eye out for the neon yellow jerseys from EDA Evolution. Those are teammates of Frank Travieso. They have some riders that are coming from Uruguay. A lot of these guys on the EDA Evolution team, all of them come from a track background. Very accomplished track riders. So they have speed, they have power. They're going to be riders that will be a factor a little bit later on in this race. And we saw that actually yesterday with a couple of those riders from EDA Evolution attacking and being very, very aggressive in the latter part of the Spartanburg race. So Speed Week, as a reminder, Thomas Gibbons is your winner right now, or your leader right now. Daniel Holloway is in second. One thing that Daniel Holloway is picking up here is the lap leader awards, and so that's something that he's very well aware of. He's going to be picking up points to be able to take over that lap leader. Right now, the blue Bike Reg lap leader jersey was Kevin Mullervy, but he's wearing the orange Colavita leaders jersey. But as Holloway picks up more and more laps, he's definitely going to be able to take over the Bike Reg lap leaders jersey by the end of the night. When certain riders come to the front of the race, it looks like Frank Cundiff again having problems getting out. This is in turn number 1. Coming out of turn number 2, I was going to say, when certain riders come to the front, you got to sound alarm bells. Ed Veal in the black jersey in 4th position. The solid black jersey was Thomas Gibbons, the winner from yesterday. A ton of horsepower starting to go up the road. Rider in the neon jersey, Redrick Diaz. He was one of those EDA Evolution riders that I talked about, was attacking like mad yesterday. He's in the front. That's Hegavari, number 10, sitting in the back right there. Haven't really figured out what's going on with Adrian Hegavari right now. Yesterday, when the pace started picking up and things started getting kind of crazy, wasn't able to get up there to be able to help Holloway with the lead out. Danny Summerhill was all over the front. But Hegavari participated in the early part of the race, but not so much in the latter part of the race. Perhaps now a little bit different tactics, saving himself for the latter part of the race, but you have to survive riding in the tail gun position. Punching tickets back there is not very easy at all. Last couple years, the USA Crit Series has kicked off with the Athens Twilight Criterium. This used to be race number 1. That was the way it was in 2018 and the way it was in 2017. 2016, we started off with Tampa with the races in Florida. And this year, we started off with a preseason race in Birmingham. And then we started off with race number 1 in El Paso. And they did a fantastic job for a first-year race in El Paso, Texas. Turned out extremely well. And it was an exciting race on the women's side and the men's side. Mullervy got into a breakaway, and he won from the breakaway using his kind of his sprinting legs to be able to take the win in a bike throw. I mean, literally a tire width in front of Tyler Stites from Avolo Cycling. And I'm sure for Tyler Stites, the young rider, he would have loved to have been able to come home with that win. But the experienced Mullervy coming out on top. Right now, he's wearing the orange Colavita Leaders jersey for the USA Crits Leader, 269 points in his pocket. So the Holloway, who has not done a USA Crit race, we already went through the 5 laps into the race USA Crit points. So he would have picked up 10 points. And what I didn't notice is who picked up the 7, 5, 3, and 2 points. But I'm not sure how much of a difference that really is going to make, because right now we got 39 points difference between Thomas Gibbons and Mullervy, and that is between first place and 6th place. And I don't mention 2, 3, 4, and 5 because, as I had mentioned, they are not here at the race. So as we're going through 80 laps, if you got a question, my name is Frankie Andreu. I'm bringing you the Athens Twilight Criterium, 40 years of gears. Feel free to send me a message or maybe even a comment on Fakey Frankie. You can see it right there. Twitter is always open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. EDA Evolution, we talked about it, Rodrigue Diaz on the front. So EDA Evolution, some of these guys just coming off of racing at Tour of Uruguay. They finished up Tour of Uruguay. Some of them riding the Athens Twilight Criterium for the very first time. And can you imagine coming out 10 deep all around, tens of thousands of riders cheering you on as Diaz now is going up the road. So Diaz by himself, he was on the front. Remember, he was on the front last lap. So did he just ride riders off of his wheel as he's trying to bring back Holloway all by himself? Holloway's still sitting with a pretty decent lead. I was trying to look for the time, but I didn't really get a time check that last lap. Michael Garrison, I think, coming over the top right there as he comes through turn number 1. Time gap 23 seconds. A little bit earlier, one thing about Athens is they raise a lot of money that goes back to many of the different charities around the group, and they had about $1,000, and I think it was over the last 3 years they have given away almost 1,000 helmets to different schools, not only in Athens but also in the surrounding areas. And we saw a couple video highlights about that as we have a point sprint coming up, or a preem sprint, as Texas Roadhouse. Luke Keel taking that. We talked about Luke Keel and his dominance. I mean, if I'm going to go back to looking up Luke Keel and his dominance way back in the day when he was on United Healthcare, that blue train was dominant. I mean, if we want to go back to about 2016, 2017, Keel won Rochester. He was 3rd at U.S. Criterium National, 2nd at Boise. Won Intelligentsia Cup, and then we're talking about 2016. And if we move up into the other years, just as dominant. At one point, Luke Keel was the most dominant sprinter in the United States. And I would say that probably was 2 years ago. part of it being, when you're surrounded by riders like Brad White, Carl Menzies, Alzate, you are in good hands. And also, you can't forget to be able to mention Danny Summerhill, Adrian Hegavari, also part of that. Previous winner of the Twilight Criterium, Luke Keel. He remembers that feeling. He wants to return to that feeling. After a bad training crash last year, what a highlight it would be to be able to have him on the top spot of the podium. But he has about 140 other riders that are all thinking about the same thing, that he's going to have to be able to either outgun or outpace to the finish. Butcher Box, the new team, actually it's a second-year team out of Boston on the front right now. Steve Cullen, their director, is here also directing the guys, radio communication, helping to be able to tell them what's going on, if they need to attack, if they need to chase, how they want to be able to handle kind of riding this race. Unbelievable. Just attacked on lap number one as about 26 seconds. Nobody's able to be able to bring him back as everybody, I don't want to say they're chasing, they're just racing and riding along, but pretty impressive. Full field here, capped at 150. That's exactly what they have. 150 riders took the start today. Seeing Team Cliff Bar on the front right now. Talked about Zach Allison with a big win of the USA Crit Series race in San Rafael. Mullervy taking the first win this year. So mid-race last year. They also won the team competition. The Hollywood Holloway, he loves putting out a show. A little bit later on, I tell you, once he gets a little bit more comfortable or realizes he might have this in the bag, if he's able to stay away, he'll start waving his arms around. He'll start getting the crowd involved. He'll start kind of pumping them up, and being the showman that he is, he has a lot of fun, and he loves coming out to this race. Gateway Development Cycling on the front. That's Scott McGill. So they decided they needed to take things in their own hands. Gateway Development Cycling Team. Over the years, they've developed some incredibly strong riders that have moved up through the ranks into the pro peloton, and McGill is on his way towards that also. McGill's been pretty much racing flat out since about February, taking a trip to Arizona early in the season. Also did the Redlands Cycling Classic in the men's pro category, won in the circuit race, had a good result on day number one. So he's testing his legs, going from the road racing after Joe Martin and the Redlands now to the Criterium racing as Butcher Box is back on the front with John Harris. So one rider that Butcher Box is thinking about is Connor Sayi. Sayi already with about 10 wins this year alone, and that's who John Harris is thinking about trying to help to be able to keep this group either together to be able to get him in a good position to attack later on. Cliff Bar finally coming to the front. They know the USA Crit title is on the line, but it's also the Athens title. You got to remember Mullervy was a winner here also in 2013. It was a huge upset. He got into the breakaway. United Healthcare had been winning every single race pretty much the year before and leading up to the Athens Twilight Criterium. Got into the breakaway. Mullervy, Carlos Alzate, and there was one other rider which is escaping me right now. They rode around, stayed away, getting into the final 5 or 6 laps. One rider clipping out, like doing the BMX pit stop. He had a flat tire, that's why. He's on the radio immediately letting his teammates know that he has a flat tire. He's going to go into the pit. But going back to the breakaway in 2013, Alzate and this other rider were just kind of looking at each other, playing games with each other. Mullervy took off, got about a 10-second gap, and for the last 5 laps, they could not bring him back. And it was a major upset because the United Healthcare Criterium squad had lost a race that nobody thought that they were going to be able to lose, especially with the rider like Carlos Alzate as strong and as fast as he was. Even the orange jersey of the USA Crits leader is on the front right now. Joe Lewis, a good ride yesterday. I believe he was top 3 from Team Cliff Bar. Former rider from the Hincapie team, Joe Lewis, on the front of this bike race right now, sitting in about 3rd or 4th position. I'm surprised, like, there's a lot of guys getting flats, or a lot of guys putting their hands up, and you can't put up your hand if you're feeling tired. You put up your hand if you're going to the pit. Riders flying around now. Turn number 1. Remember, we're going counterclockwise. It's the opposite direction of what we used to do with the Athens Twilight Criterium. Holloway off the front. It's unbelievable, but can he keep up this kind of speed and this kind of effort? I've come and raced Athens Twilight more than a few times. I also came and directed it. I remember coming direct it with, I believe it was Toyota United, but the best memories are from racing it. Especially when you're 21 years old, maybe even younger than that, and just kind of flying around and being in a college town, going out and having a good time after the race. That's what a lot of these riders are definitely going to be thinking about. And I did the same thing, but I also remember one time coming to the Athens Twilight Criterium, and it was back in the orange fencing days. So instead of having these metal barriers, they had orange fencing days, and I remember attacking, big crash in the back, and that's exactly what I was getting to. I put my head down, was attacking like mad, and just ran myself straight into the orange fencing, which hooked my handlebars and threw me straight across the road, sliding for about 50 meters. These guys not sliding. Man, did the motorcycle back up into hopefully the wheels are okay there. But anyways, these guys didn't slide for 50 meters, but this is a massive crash. I'm telling you, what drives me nuts, I understand if you're hurt, you lay on the ground for a bit and you get things taken care of, but what drives me nuts is how a lot of guys just all stand around and don't clear the course. I can remember crashing. First thing I would do is try to find my bike and get up, find my bike and get out of the race course, but definitely there are guys down here and there's stuff everywhere. They're going to have to neutralize it. We saw 2 neutralizations in the women's race, and definitely neutralizing this. Looks like Thomas Gibbons might have gone walking over to be able to check what was wrong with some of the riders on there. Hopefully, it's the impact, maybe losing your breath, a little bit of a bruising, and they'll be able to get up and be able to kind of move on. But we've seen this in Athens Twilight Criterium, as we're seeing right now. This is coming out, I believe, of turn number 2. We're on the backstretch, and we saw one of the bumps take out Erica Carney in the women's race, and so I'm just kind of keeping an eye out here. Oh, it's way in the back. Way in the back on the left-hand side. It's a little bit grainy, so hard to really tell kind of what happened, if it was an overlap of the wheels or of the barriers. But once the first guys go down, and especially everybody else coming around the turn, very hard to be able to change your direction and react to the situation. That's exactly what happened. You see the guy jump the barrier. He was just getting the heck out of the way. So 50 guys, I think, would be a safe assessment of the riders that went down, as more riders are coming around. And again, when you don't see it, and so you don't know that there is a crash until somebody in the back is able to tell you that, but saw a fantastic, one of the best saves you're ever going to see came from the women's race. She had it locked up, crossed up. I mean, it was a Matthew Vanderpool cross dynamic. The way he didn't go down in Paris-Roubaix when he slid along the curb, she pulled it off with even better technique, I would say. So, neutralized. Lap, I don't know, we have 59 laps to go, so let me write that down. So this is the type of race where some riders actually won't come to Athens because they know what it's about. Used to have riders when I was a director with Kenda and 5 Hour Energy. I had riders, we were getting ready to go to Tour of Gila. So Tour of Gila is the same thing. It's coming up next week. Big, important UCI race for the climbers, and I had some of my climbers and some of my good riders. And normally as a bike racer, you know, you're not just a climber, you're a bike racer. They were going to get ready to go do Tour of Gila. Then after Tour of Gila, we were going to go out to be able to do Tour of California or some other event, but they wanted to go and race at Athens. And the thing is, there's a dynamic with Athens that you have to take into account depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And so there are certain teams, and I must say I'm guilty too, there are certain riders that I told them they were not allowed to be able to go and race at Athens because of the risk, because of the potential for crashing, for being injured. And that's is kind of the speed, the tightness of the course, the importance of trying to get onto the podium at the end. I mean, it all plays a part in this nighttime race of the Athens Twilight Criterium. Yesterday at Spartanburg, we saw some guys crashing down, the worst one, and I tried to find out who it was or what his name was, but the rider near the end, and you saw him riding, and he clipped the barrier. And right when he clipped the barrier, he flipped over the handlebars, landed with both hands on the ground, and right around the forearm area, he broke both his arms. And so, horrible. And so I'm bringing this up only to say that we're thinking about you and wishing you a speedy recovery. And that's dangerous. The way the barriers came undone and poked out, riders coming in, sliding into each other. You know, being able to fall on top of those barriers and falling on top of each other, I mean, it's just an unfortunate incident. Brings back flash memories of Emil Abraham when he crashed. It might have been 2013. I'm not really sure about that. When he crashed in one of the corners and the motorcycle had stopped there. It was a massive crash. The motorcycle stopped to try to protect the riders because Emil Abraham was knocked out, unconscious, on the ground in the middle of the turn, packing the peloton, flying around racing. And that was when they plowed in because they couldn't see around the turn. First riders came through. Maybe 4 guys made it around the motorcycle. Everybody else plowed into the motorcycle, and it was a massive pileup. But really, that was the impetus, I think, and the start for how quickly that races neutralize things now. It was started then, like in 2013, 2014, because I've seen in a lot of other races, and at times, it is definitely permissible. It's definitely necessary. You have to neutralize the race to be able to get riders safely off the course or to be able to get medical onto the course. But I've been to many races where they quickly neutralize it when it's not that necessary, and partly because of the liability reasons and the risk. They don't want to take a chance or be accused of not being able to protect the riders. And so the first course of action right away is kind of a knee-jerk reaction sometimes is to just neutralize it. But in this case, we saw it in the women's race too. A rider had crashed into the barriers, was knocked unconscious, took a while to untangle her. We had a rider in the women's race also, the crash that happened at the start-finish line. Let me look up her name once again. I thought it was going to be a broken collarbone, but I believe from Grey Goat Bullseye, Breanna Clarke ended up breaking her leg. I think she broke her femur. And so that's serious. That's not something you just pick somebody up and move them off to the side. And so right now, we see the riders pressing over to one side, perhaps waiting for the medical personnel to be able to come back onto the course. 150 riders took the start. Obviously, we've lost some already. And after a couple crashes, what happens is a lot of the other riders decide, hey, this isn't worth it. I don't think I want to be able to do this anymore. And they end up kind of pulling out. So we could lose some riders. Rider there from Toronto Hustle former junior Canadian Criterium national champion. I was talking to those guys earlier from Toronto Hustle. Another guy from Toronto Hustle, Anton Vra Bay. Now, Vra Bay is, he got in a crash at Spartanburg, ended up breaking his bike, and so he's riding on a teammate's bike, which is 2 sizes too small, but he's racing, so he's out here. I mean, they came all the way from Canada, and they're out here for the whole week, so they're going to have to figure out a way to be able to kind of keep their bikes in good condition and be able to race. So Toronto Hustle, I believe they have 3 riders here, and they do. So I talked about Anton Vra Bay. We also have Kurt Pinot and Sam Titter Dower, but also in that car was Rory Yupnik, and maybe he was just traveling with them. So not sure. But anyways, the rider I was talking about from Toronto Hustle was Pinot. So Pinot from Canada is a junior Criterium national champion. That's David Gutenplan over there from Gutenplan Coaching Safe Sport. He is your 2018, last year's overall USA Crit Series winner, looking to be able to repeat it in 2019. Had a fantastic run last year in 2018, targeted the USA Crit Series. He kind of had to pull in riders here and there to be able to help him out as he was traveling around the country to try to collect as many points as he could. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Gutenplan, one of the only riders, I think, to attend all of the USA Crit Series races, because Zach Allison attended almost all of them. I think he missed one of them, and so Gutenplan, I think maybe him and one other rider actually had attended every USA Crit race, and that's important if you're going to be able to collect the points with 200 points available at the finish. Kind of important. You got to be able to go to the races. And so speaking of that, we're here at Athens. We already did El Paso. Next up, we're going to Winston-Salem. That's going to be the next USA Crit race. After Winston-Salem, we are then heading to Tulsa Tough, and that's always a fantastic race. I mean, if you've never done, we talk about iconic criteriums. There's a race in Tulsa Tough on the 3rd day called Crybaby Hill. It is unbelievable. It is a outdoor disco dance party taking place on a hill during the race, and it happens to be a bike race going through it. So something that, as a bike racer, as classic as Athens Twilight is, Crybaby Hill at Tulsa Tough. Anyways, we're going to be there. The USA Crit race is actually on day number 1, and that's on June 7th. Then we're going to Boise on July 13th. Salt Lake City for the brand new Salt Lake Criterium, July 20th. San Rafael, July 27th in California. Littleton, Colorado will be August 3rd. August 10th, Westchester. And then I think the final is going to be, I believe, September 21st. But you know what? No one's told me if I'm able to announce the city or even the date, which I gave away, but I'm not even positive I'm accurate. But nobody's told me if I'm allowed to announce the date or the city where the USA Crit Final will take place when we get into September. So a lot of races still to go, as right now we are still neutralized as medical personnel is out on course taking care of the riders to be able to make sure that they're okay before we continue with the race. Once again, we have 59 laps to go. We started with 80 laps. Tough situation. You see the time checks at the top, 23 seconds for Daniel Holloway. Look at the skills. My goodness. That's something I could never do. I could watch that all day long. Rider from CCB riding wheelies in the back. But Holloway has a 23-second lead. He's getting a lot of recovery. So is the main peloton. But I think that recovery actually is more important for Daniel Holloway than it is for the riders in the main group. And so it's going to be interesting to see. They're going to have to start Holloway, wait 23.7, let's just call it 24 seconds, then start the main group. Then you know what's going to happen in the main group? They're all going to look at each other saying, hey, who's going to take over the chase? Maybe you should do it. Which team is going to do it? Who's going to take responsibility? I would not be surprised if Holloway could easily pick up another 5 seconds in the first 2 to 3 laps of the restart. I was just going through Twitter. Mike Creed, you're funny. I'm glad you're listening. Talked about how many slaps on the head he should give Cade Bickmore if Holloway would lap the field. Then he told me the policy of Brad Soner, which he reads tweets during the broadcast. So, you know what? If it's good enough for Brad, I guess it could be good enough for me. But more importantly, if Mike Creed wants it, then it's going to get done. And so, miss seeing you out on the directing circuit, but I'll be at some of the races where I'm definitely going to run into you. And congratulations on Avolo with the women's team, which I think is fantastic. A lot of riders excited about the women's team racing at Tour of Gila. Just kind of a one-off for Tour of Gila. I'm sure he has his hands full with his development team. And, of course, they're going out to Tour of Gila also. And so should be very interesting on how, you know, the good climber guys, and I tell you, the young guys are just, they continue to get better and better. So right now we see the race official talking with Gene Dixon, trying to be able to figure out how he wants to handle this. Perhaps a reduction in laps, perhaps not a reduction in laps, but I don't know where the rest of the field is. I mean, this is a group that is up here. I don't know where everybody else is and who is, what kind of medical personnel they're showing that is out on course and how many riders they're trying to take care of. So normally when the race is restarted, they might have a good chance of doing one lap neutral and then starting it. They're not going to just start these guys, say, clip into your pedals and start sprinting. But again, Holloway gets a 24-second lead. So I don't know how they're going to play that out. And then we have to be able to, again, I don't know where the rest of the peloton is. 150 guys started the race, and I know there was a big crash, but there's a big group. I mean, I believe it was down at turn number 4. I mean, where the guys were riding the wheelies, I think they're all sitting down at turn number 4. So it's brought to my attention that we do have different colored lights. We actually have a whole light system here that is shining because we have the USA Crit point sprints, so they shine a certain color light, or let's just say they flash a certain color light. Then when it's a preem, they flash a certain color light. And you can see the light system that is set up there. And so that will change colors depending to allow the riders to know what is going on, and they trigger that with the preem or the points. The other part with the lights is that when the DJ Khalib or whatever his name is going crazy up there with the bass going at like decibel 28, lights are going nuts. It's making a big party out here, having a ton of fun. Look at some of the riders in the back of this group having a good time. Oh, so these were the riders that were riding the wheelies that were all stuck at turn number 4. So this is the one group I was wondering where they were. They're coming up to the start-finish line. So I'm assuming we're getting to the point where we're not going to have the restart. Now, I have no way of telling who kind of was involved in the crash. In other words, I'm not sure which riders were in the crash and which riders are now, eliminated from the race. Obviously, anybody in the crash can go to the Look service pit and get taken care of. And Look has done a fantastic job of getting riders, getting their bikes taken care of, getting their wheels taken care of, keeping them with not only just keeping them with equipment, but superior equipment. I mean, Look equipment is fantastic. Now, Mullerby screaming and yelling about something. Now, I'm stuck here way behind the stage, so I'm not out there to be able to figure out what is going on. You know what? I'm going to actually, you guys have been listening to me ramble for a little bit. I'm actually going to hop off the headset. You're going to stay here. We're going to go quiet for a little bit. I'm going to run out there, talk to Kevin Mullerby, find out what's he upset about. I'm going to run back here and fill you in. I'll be back in a moment. know you've been waiting. So anyways, Mullervy is upset because as we're back to racing right now. So the back 30 riders, these were the riders that were in the front of the race when the car made them slow down and stop at turn number 4. So what they were upset about is that when they were called up from turn number 4 to the start line was already full with a lot of the riders that were off the back or dropped, that they stopped earlier than the other riders. And so the leaders that were in the front of the race now are in the back of the race and have to go through the whole process of trying to move up once again. And this is what, not only Mullervy, there were a bunch of other riders that were upset about this kind of scenario once again. So now what I did not see is, I don't know where Holloway was in all this. I don't know if they sent him off. I was over there talking, so I'm not sure. Did they send Holloway off and then they start this group, or was Holloway just in some kind of secluded, locked room and they just let him out someplace on the course that is supposedly 23-second lead? So we're going to wait to be able to see him come by and see what kind. Now, again, I talked about it was 23 seconds. Now it's showing 27 seconds. And again, the rest I believe is going to do Holloway be more beneficial for Holloway than for a lot of these riders. And again, we have this first attack right off the gun. Once they catch this guy, there's going to be a lull. I think Holloway could be able to take another 5 or 6 seconds once things calm down a little bit. On the front right now, a couple of riders from Automatic Racing. It might be Conley, Ed Veal, the black jerseys. They almost look identical. Look at the gaps opening up. This is a pretty fast restart to the race after standing around. Tyler Locke not liking it very much from the Gutenplan coaching. The blonde locks usually are flowing backwards because of the high speed, but they seem to be kind of drooping straight down, not going as fast as he usually does. So Huntley Nash, Christian Clavero. Sorry, so Holloway's away. So again, 27 seconds. So that is Ed Veal. That's Thomas Gibbons there. I don't know where Veal is. He's somewhere else in the group. Spencer Movenzada moving up. Talk about a talented young rider, Spencer Movenzada, the winner in 2018 of the Young Riders jersey in the USA Crit Series. Currently studying at Duke. He's getting a double major in material sciences and biology, and he couldn't come yesterday because of studying for finals and taking finals. Came to be able to race today and tomorrow, then has to go back to Duke to be able to continue taking his finals as he's trying to prepare to be able to graduate from Duke in a double major. So a fantastic bike rider, and I guess you could call him the genius cyclist. And I know on Levine Law Group, there's a genius cyclist also, but it's skipping, her name is skipping me right now. So maybe it'll come back to me and I'll bring that up again. Danny Summerhill sitting in second. That's Joe Lewis on the front from Team Cliff Bar. They realize they all have a problem. They have a shared problem, and it comes in the name of Daniel Holloway, the Texas Roadhouse rider in the front, as Joe Lewis is trying to bring him back. When I talk about a shared problem, I mean all the other teams that are not on Texas Roadhouse. Summerhill in the front. He's going to try to slow it down. Adrian Hegavari in the front. He's going to try to slow it down. Anybody with the green and white helmet, they're not bringing back our lone race leader. If Holloway can go away on lap number 1 and stay away by himself, that would be a remarkable ride. And I would then say that he has gotten his power back, because I thought that was part of the problem at Sunny King, lacking a little bit of power, coming off that track racing, not being able to turn the bigger gears. It's just a little bit of an adjustment. Granted, it's been a couple weeks since Sunny King, and Holloway was good there, but not super. Here so far, he's proven that he's super. Now I got to figure out what's better than super, because if he wins, it has to be a notch above. So now we're going to have to figure out what kind of word that would be. Maybe sensational. So we're going to have to wait. 56 laps to go. Can Daniel Holloway pull off pretty much the unthinkable, going solo for an entire Athens Twilight Criterium? Nice picture of Holloway. Getting aerodynamics, staying pretty much steady on that bike as he's going on that backstretch. Doesn't look like much is really bothering him. He won in Walterboro here last year in a big group sprint. It was part of Speed Week. Also took a stage at Tulsa Tough. He knows how to win. He knows how to sprint. Previous Criterium, Elite Criterium national champion. Two-time winner of the Athens Twilight Criterium. Can he make it 3? Oh, and that reminds me, right? If Holloway pulls this off, he will then move into the ranks of tying Tina Pick as the other only 3-time winner of the Athens Twilight Criterium. A lot of the crowds, they have no idea what's going on. I don't think they really care what's going on. They know one rider's off the front. They know a bunch of riders are trying to bring them back. They're not really as familiar with kind of the backstory on some of these teams, like Ed Veal, Real Deal or Dallas. 2 years ago, he had a breakout race in Walterboro, got into the breakaway, stormed away, ended up finishing 3rd overall in Speed Week. And since then, he just gets on the front and attacks and attacks and attacks. Did a great ride at the Rochester 2 years ago. So what's happening right now is just the high pace of starting to string it out. All of these guys from here back just need to wait. Just follow the wheels, sit in, and just wait. Let the chase take place. Let the chase take place. Conserve your energy. Wait for it to slow down, and then find your opportunity to be able to move up. Hopefully, if you're on a team, you have a teammate that's maybe a little bit further forward, maybe top 10 or 15, following the moves too. Because what'll happen is on that gradual uphill coming up to the start finish, riders are going to tire out, gaps are going to open up, and then pretty soon you're going to end up getting gapped off. You could be super strong, but if you get gapped off, it's very hard to close, a 2-3 bike length gap going 30, 35 miles an hour. And that's what these guys are doing right now. They are flying out there right now, trying to bring back Holloway. So the black jersey of Ed Veal has pulled off, and now it's Butcher Box on the front right now. CJ, is there any water anywhere? That's empty. Butcher Box on the front right now, getting together as a team, and that's the way to be able to do it. Talked about some of their riders, a second-year team out of Boston. Adam Sheps is here along with Connor Salya. Talked about Connor having about 10 wins under his belt already in 2019. Alex McLaughlin used to be on Texas Roadhouse. John Harris riding very strong. That's one of the riders that they're hoping for good things here in Athens. Cesar Gallego racing for a Butcher Box also, and Spencer Movinzada, who I had talked about, the rider that is attending Duke University. Team Cliff Bar on the front right now, trying to protect that jersey. Losing 5 seconds, Daniel Holloway right now, as perhaps starting to get a little bit tired. So Cliff Bar, look at the gaps that are opening up. I talked about how difficult it's going to get in the back. So partners in crime right now, or partners in preventing a crime. Perhaps we could call them policemen, because Daniel Holloway is trying to steal this race out from everybody, and it's a combination of Team Cliff Bar and Butcher Box trying to track him down. Full pursuit mode taking place right now, and this is the way. 2 riders from each team contributing to the chase as Butcher Box on the front. Now the problem is Texas Roadhouse starting to infiltrate into the top 2, into the top 3, so when a rider pulls off, nobody will pull through, so they have to, and I know they know this, but it's a matter of just doing it immediately, that when the rider on the front pulls off, when Danny Summerhill doesn't pull through, immediately the rider in third just needs to go right around him and continue to keep the momentum and the speed. But like I said, see right here, the coasting. This is Summerhill just sitting behind Andrew Jeanette, just kind of saying, hey, I'm not going to pull through. I got my teammate up there, and he's actually losing time. Joe Lewis on the front right now, so 3 more Cliff Bar. Man, you come into a race, you're not really sure how it's going to work out, and then it ends up being a hard race because you end up having to chase. And so sometimes you need to sacrifice. You know, if you got 6 riders in a race and you need to sacrifice 3 of them in order to give yourself an opportunity for victory, you have to do it. It's not even an option, but surprised that it's Connor Mullervy in the orange leader's jersey. He's on the front, and you know why? The crash may have taken out some of the other riders that were here from Team Cliff Bar. I see one in the back right here. I think that's Zach Allison going through, but otherwise there's only 2 more in the front, and so the numbers aren't there. There's another one I think that's going by. So lacking a little bit of horsepower, and this is why they just need to keep it steady. You want to keep it at a pace that Butcher Box is going to stay engaged. As long as Butcher Box stays engaged, maybe Real Deal, Toronto Hustle, maybe some other team will stay engaged. That's the pace you want to go. The moment you go harder than that, it discourages the other teams from participating, and then it's going to be left all on your shoulders, and eventually you're going to run out of steam. As you can see right here, there's 1 Cliff Bar left, and it's Summerhill who continues to try to disrupt the chase. A couple years ago, Daniel Summerhill, big stage win at the Tour of Taiwan. Then ran into a little bit of trouble when United Healthcare was released from the team. Took some time off and then has gradually made his way back into the cycling scene with Texas Roadhouse. And I talked about last year, flying, riding incredibly well at Sonny King at the Alabama Cycling Classic, where on the day number 2, the road race, ended up crashing and breaking his collarbone, and then gradually had to come back. But that preseason form that he had last year, he was never able to actually use it. This year, he's got the same great preseason form, and he's actually getting the chance to be able to use it. Holloway, coming off a long track winner, trying to make the 2020 Olympic team. They have a good team pursuit team, a good Madison team, points race, the scratch race. Holloway, a very good track rider, and right now, as I had mentioned, coming back from Europe. So you got that transition of coming back from Europe, transition of returning to the road, riding in a little bit larger gears, and it's starting to be able to pay off for him as he's put in a ton of time off the front of this race. Man, I can't wait. If Holloway makes it with 3 laps to go, still with 25 seconds, he's going to be psyching up that crowd. He's going to be cheering himself on as much as he's cheering everybody else on to be able to make some noise. The Hollywood Holloway right now continues to ride on the front. Last 10 laps probably lost about 10 seconds as we're down to about 18-second gap, coming down from his biggest gap, which was 28. 80 lap race, and so now coming down, it's going to be bell lap for points. So that means Holloway's going to pick up another 10. Look at the smoke coming across. The DJ, the music, and the smoke all signaling points available next lap as they're ringing the bell. 10, 7, 5, 3, and 2. Oh, you know what I just thought of also? If Holloway stays away for all 80 laps, obviously he will be the lap leader, but those points that you occur each lap actually add towards your total. So Holloway is going to pick up 80 points if he stays away the entire time. He's going to pick up 10 points for the sprint on lap number 5, 10 points for the mid-race, so that's 20, that's 100 points he's going to pick up in just this one race. And if he wins the race, that's going to be 300 points. I don't know if he'll be able to take over the lead because Kevin Mullervy picks up a top 10 place. He'll be able to keep that lead, but very interesting on how many points Holloway has been able to pick up. Oh, looking over his shoulder. He's going to take 10 points, but now sitting up. A complete change. Counterattacks coming now. Texas Roadhouse. Holloway swallowed up. Went away on lap number 1. It took half the race to be able to bring back Daniel Holloway as Texas Roadhouse riders now counterattacking, trying to go up. A little bit of communication. I'm not sure what Holloway's trying to be able to figure out. I think they're in a good position. I mean, I'm just, you know what? You counterattack. It's just the way it is. I mean, ideally, you don't want one rider to go back up the road by themselves, but you don't know how that's going to work out. You don't know how that's going to play out. So you counterattack. Your teammate's been off that front. Once he gets caught, you automatically counterattack. If somebody wants to come with you, so be it. But now it's going to be Butcherbox caught on their heels once again. I think that's Connor Sayi on the front right now. Butcherbox having to chase once again, and Cliff Bar as EDA Evolution now trying to be able to bridge across a big opportunity for some strong riders to get up to Summerhill, and that's something they have to pay attention to. That is a ton of horsepower in the front. If they can latch a few more engines onto Summerhill, they'll have a good chance of blasting away. Nice sized group here with 6 riders. This could be something to be able to pay a little bit of attention to. Holloway out of the saddle, struggling a little bit to be able to keep up with the pace on the little bit of an uphill. Now Summerhill just kind of getting into the groove, but not looking very comfortable right now. And surprised as this is going to be another Texas Roadhouse rider attacking on the front, chasing down his teammate that's off the front. Joe Lewis still sitting in third as Kyle Perry is coming through. Kyle Perry managed to be able to make that break in Birmingham from Texas Roadhouse. The preseason USA Crit Races, Perry had gotten up there. Finished to third on that day as the Automatic Racing took that race. Chad Conley taking the win in Birmingham. El Paso, we talked about Mullervy taking that win yesterday in Spartanburg, not a USA Crit Race, but Speed Week. Thomas Gibbons, another rider from Automatic Racing. Oh, looks like a rider off the back about to get dropped as the lead car, the Subaru lead car about to come through. Unbelievable night so far here at the Athens Orthopedic Clinic, Twilight Criterium. 38 laps to go. The crowds are out as Summerhill, look at that grimace. We didn't see that much pain on Holloway the entire time he was off the front. Well, my timing strip is off right here as these guys, oh, there it is, Brock Mason coming through. DJ still spinning the base. It still continues. Stage squad racing. Brock Mason trying to be able to bring back Danny Summerhill. And again, Summerhill looking like he's struggling a little bit more. Ryder's only about 6 seconds behind him as the 28-year-old Mason is pushing the pace. Now looks like Luke Keel, I think, is the rider that is in third. Brock Mason coming off of fourth place at the Sunshine Grand Prix. Also raced the Auburn University collegiate races. So a young collegiate racer right now. Well, he's raced the collegiate race. He's not young. He's 28 years old. Category 1 rider now trying to be able to bridge up to Danny Summerhill, but right behind him, more dangerous. The one you got to watch out for, that's of Luke Keel. 36 laps to go, so starting to dwindle down. When we get into about 15 to 20 laps to go, I would say we're getting into kind of critical time because that's an opportunity where, you know, if you're a break, 3 or 4 riders would have a chance to be able to stay away for about 10 laps and be able to steal the win from many of the sprinters. Kyle Perry from Texas Roadhouse, perhaps they're trying to control it. Now the question is, who are they controlling it for? Normally if Texas Roadhouse was on the front, you're controlling it for Daniel Holloway, but Summerhill just did a big attack. Didn't look like he was struggling a little bit. Holloway's been away for 40 laps. I don't know how much snap and how much freshness he's going to have in his legs. And so for Texas Roadhouse, I think it's a matter of you want to get into the break. You want to separate this, get into a smaller group of 3 or 4 or 5 and give yourself a better chance to be able to beat some of the speedy men in this race. Owen Schott sitting in second position here. He told me he was going to ride the pro race. Rode away from everybody yesterday in the Masters race. Very, very strong rider, Owen Schott. Moving up in the pro race now, trying to be able to do some damage. Just looking around. Again, Kyle Perry on the front. Butcher Box sitting a little bit further back. Frank Travieso coming through. Again, 4 times third here at this exact race. Well, not this exact race, but at this race, the Athens Twilight Criterium. Can't say exact because this is the first year. Actually, it's the second time they've had a change in the course. 2 years ago, because of construction, they had to have a change in the course where they just had to move the course. This is the second time where we also have a change in the course, also going counterclockwise than what is normal. Other than that, so you could say for 38 years, the Athens Twilight has been the exact same in downtown Athens, Georgia. You know, we're right near Georgetown, University of Georgia. And the University of Georgia, big college partying town, and the bars are packed. People all over the place walking around, drinks in hand, in and out of the bars, having a good time. Very large music scene in this area, and that continues to be the case. A little bit less concern. EDA Evolution attacking on the left-hand side. It might be Diaz once again. Frank Travieso is in the main group. He's about third rider. The orange jersey, that's the Colavita Leaders jersey from Kevin Mullervy, as two different riders coming across, and that's Diaz making his way up there. I think our timing is all off because that's not Summerhill and that's not Owen Schott that is on the front right there. So it's a different set of riders coming through trying to be able to break away. Each rider striking out at a different moment, but still 33 laps to go. It's a long ways to go. There's Owen Schott. That's the rider I was looking for. So Roderick Diaz, along with Owen Schott, are just up the road from the rest of the charging pack. Premium available on the line as Diaz takes that. Frank Travieso in that neon yellow sitting in second position in the main group. Oh, you know what I haven't seen at all, and now I'm going to check my start sheet to even see if they're here before I mention what I'm talking about. Let me see what's going on here with... they got listed 6 riders here. First Internet Bank has not, I haven't seen them at all, not once in this race. Yesterday at Spartanburg, they were all over the place. They were attacking like mad, super aggressive. Have not seen them one time this entire race right now. So I just wanted to double check that they're actually still listed on the start roster. I talked about Jarrett Oldham not in the race. A broken collarbone suffered yesterday in Spartanburg. But I believe the rest of the riders in the light blue jerseys are here in this race and perhaps waiting for a little bit of some bike racing to be able to take place. Keel Campbell in the red jersey right there sitting on Daniel Holloway. Good young rider. Love watching him race as right now we got riders. Looks like maybe some more riders coming in out of the pit as close as it's been like a 4-second gap for the last 5 laps with Diaz and Owen Schott. It's like they're not going away and nobody's really trying to go up to them. It's kind of different, kind of weird as these guys fly through turn number 1 heading in towards turn number 2. Talked about how aggressive and bumpy the backstretch is, and we've seen plenty of crashes on this back stretch for different reasons, but definitely has been a factor in the race as a butcher box right now on the front. So Luke Keogh coming through. That's David Gutenplan coming through. Some of the other riders from Cliff Bar. There's a couple First Internet Bank riders in the light blue jerseys going. On the back, I think that's the Mark Pro riders. Yeah, so that's Willie Myers. That's one of the Mark Pro riders on the back. That's the number that I caught, number 87. Not sure, there's 2 of them back there. I'm not sure who the other one is. Well, I like this team coming up to the front. There's Shane Klein in the all-white jersey. He was up there in the sprint yesterday. He has no teammates. He just has to sit in and do nothing and then kind of wait for maybe the last 30 laps. He can start making, waiting for a move to be able to get in there. Good, strong sprinter, Shane Klein, as he's starting to be able to pay a little bit more attention. But there's another team that I had not seen the entire race. Now, they are sitting in 3rd and 4th right now, and they're together. Purple jerseys, black helmets, sitting on that of Team Cliff Bar. Gonna wait for them to come around, try to be able to see which team that is and what their names are, because they have now decided to be able to, they got together. They're doing something on purpose as they've joined forces, not only to be able to move up, but also to be with each other at this moment in the race. Unbelievable ride right now as they have not brought back Danny Summerhill. 18 seconds. The counterattack seems to be working right now. Frank Travieso right here, your hometown boy coming from Athens, Georgia. Birthplace is in Cuba, but he's been living in Athens for a long time, and he wants to win. I mean, I think he would be in tears if he ended up on the top spot of the podium. If he took victory here tonight, it would be a dream come true after finishing third 4 different times, 4 different years at the Athens Twilight Criterium. This is as much of a hometown race for Frank Travieso as it can get. And right now, looking over his shoulder, it's Shane Klein deciding to make the mark. And here's one of the riders. Oh, it's from the 706 project trying to be able to make his way up there. That's actually a team that Frank Travieso used to ride for as they're coming through the start-finish line. John Harris, Connor Saye was the rider in. So Andrew Scarano, let me double check this, the 706 project. Yeah, it is. 706 Project United Healthcare, Andrew Scarano. Those are the riders, the 2 riders that came to the front in the purple jerseys with the black helmets. So they're marking every move. They know it's getting down to crunch time. So a great job by them as Scarano has already followed one of the moves, and now he's got his teammate following on his wheel, waiting to counterattack or follow whatever the next moves it might be. So now getting, all right, I was looking. They were on the start sheet, but thank you, First Internet Bank Cycling, letting me know because it was a little bit strange. None of the riders took the start today because of all the crashes yesterday, broken bikes, broken bodies, damages, and so it was just too much, the carnage that came from Spartanburg. So that's good to know. So First Internet Bank not in the race. And I knew something was weird. I knew something was off because ton of strength on that team, and so it was very odd. And I didn't really see the light blue jersey, so thanks for clearing that up. Well, Summerhill still sticking with an 18-second lead. The entire race, a Texas Roadhouse rider has been off the front. Unbelievable ride, and right now it's Butcher Box. That's one of the more powerful teams that actually could ride on the front to be able to bring back Summerhill. "40 years of gears." It's part of the Athens Twilight, the 40th Athens Twilight Criterium. What a celebration it's been tonight. And you know, the Athens Twilight Criterium, sure, the racing, the bike racing is tonight. Oh, going wide and he's down. This is going to be a problem for a bunch of the different riders, all of them in the front. Man, he took a flyer, clipped the hay bale, but what you can't see coming around that turn, and the rest of the riders, there's no way when you're coming in at 35 miles an hour, you're going to be able to hit the brakes that quickly. And so a lot of riders down here. 26 laps to go, so everybody here, even if you're held up, you can go and get the free lap, which many of these riders are going to do. Hopefully, what we want to see is everybody get up. But man, he swung, he just coming in hot, clipped the hay bale. And once the clipped the first hay bale, the second hay bale popped out. And nice to be able to see Johnny Mitchell thinking, having a head on his shoulders, clearing the course for everybody else that's going to be coming through. And here's the replay. And that red and white one just in front came wide, and then right behind him, he clips the hay bale, panicking a little bit. When you hit your brakes like that, it straightens you up. Now, the rider here, that might be Johnny Mitchell, he had no chance of getting around that hay bale, and then everybody else was just piling into it. So they are right now, this is where the crash just took place. Now you got the danger of all that loose hay and sliding out. But again, you got to remember, there's probably about 20 riders that are going to be coming in from the pit. Now what's going to be interesting is watch where the officials will throw the riders back into the race. If it's strung out like this, are they going to throw them back in the middle? Are they going to throw them back in the front? Are they going to throw them back in the back? I've seen races where I've been to, and I think it was at, might have been Oklahoma City or even Tulsa Tough. Riders who went into the pit, when they threw them back in, they threw them in actually off the back of the group, and they had to actually chase to get back on. It was crazy. But it's a key component to the Criterium is coming back into the race. And so we'll have to see what kind of experience these riders that are going to come out of the pit are going to have when they try to re-enter the race. 24 laps to go. The lap cards continue to tick, and the race continues to count off the laps as we have a bunch of the riders. Now, that crash happened, maybe top 5, top 6. I mean, it was pretty much near the front, and so there's probably some of the good sprinters, some of the good riders caught up in that mess. And again, we talk about that loose hay right there. Nice to be able to get a broom, probably, push some of that just a little bit closer to the curb, so we don't take a chance of somebody sliding out when they come through. Because you got to remember, during the last 5 laps, right, the risk is going to get higher, the speed is going to get higher. You're going to come through there flying, and that's mainly going to be coming from this main group. And I was just looking, Summerhill sitting at a 16 to 18 seconds has now opened it up to 20 seconds. So Danny Summerhill doing a fantastic job. So I'm getting I got a report that Kyle Perry's not here. His flight was canceled, so it's actually John Noonan that is here. And I think Noonan's actually using Kyle Perry's number, but John Noonan doing a good job from Texas Roadhouse patrolling the front. He's on security detail tonight. So the riders getting thrown back into the main group. I would say pretty much in the middle of the group. So not too bad, definitely ending up near the back of that. Now, very hard to be able to try to move up, and you don't want to do it in one lap. You're going to take about 2-3 laps, try to make your way back up to the front, as a lot of these riders now sensing that Summerhill is not slowing down, but I'm not sure the horsepower is left in this main group. I don't know who's going to be able to bring this back. Well, I know Danny Summerhill would love to be able to pick up 200 points for the USA Crit Series, and I would love to see him pick up 200 points, because then I think they'd take a little bit more interest in coming out to some of the other races that the USA Crit Series is going to have. Spread out all over the country, some of the most dynamic Criterium racing there is, as the Athens Twilight Criterium. It's pitch black out. It's dark. You know what? I haven't even looked. I don't even know what time it is. It's 10:30 at night. These guys are flying around here trying to be able to wrap up 22 more laps safely and upright to find out who's going to be the next leader, the next winner, of the Twilight Crit, and the next leader of race number 2 of the USA Crit Series. Yeah, my bad. That's Kyle Perry from Texas Roadhouse in the front, doing a great job patrolling things. And I got my Kyles mixed up. It was Kyle Penny that didn't make his flight out. And so 150 riders on the start line, no excuse. Got to keep track of them all. Names, jerseys, colors. Sometimes it becomes a blur. Coming through at 35 miles an hour. 21 laps to go, and it's Butcher Box on the front. Danny Summerhill now being chased down by Spencer Movinzada. We talked about him last year, 2018, best young rider jersey in the USA Crit Series. Had a bad crash in San Rafael. He lost some valuable points. Otherwise, he would have been further up there overall in the USA Crit Series, but crashed there, didn't really recover. It actually took him a couple USA Crit races to recover. Kind of got back on track right before we got into the finals, which was at the Gateway Cup. That's another great set of races, the Gateway Cup. 4 days of racing in St. Louis. Usually it can be pretty hot, but very competitive fields, fast, wide open courses. I would say the complete opposite of what the Athens Twilight is. Danny looks like he's making faces at Chad Andrews, the stage announcer out there. At least he's not pointing at his wrist, trying to be able to get a time check from our stage announcer. Chad doing a great job talking all night long. But I was going to talk about the Twilight Athens Criterium, the festivities that go on. It's not just about the bike race on Saturday night. Yesterday, there was a massive concert, a Bee Gees cover band that used the stage and the lights, and they had a big party going on with that. They also had a couple other events this morning, starting at about 7:30 this morning. The Sparc 5K running race, the Sports Performance and Rehabilitation Center, part of the Athens Orthopedic Clinic Twilight Criterium Series, but they had a 5K run. 600 riders took part in the 8 a.m. run this morning, running 5K. Afterwards, we had a whole podium awards for them. Just right after that, we had the Gambler Ride, brought to you by Specialty Paint and Body. About 500 riders out on that. They had a choice of doing the 50K or 100K. So you could run, you could ride. Once you get back from that, you could get a little bit of lunch. Then you could come out, and they had the amateur final. Now at a different location than right here at the Twilight location, they actually have amateur races taking place all day long. Then they take the winners from some of those races, top 10, top 15, masters, juniors, seniors, women. They combine them all in the amateur final that took place on the Athens Twilight course, and that took place at 5 p.m. Can't remember who won. That race was actually neutralized also with, I think actually in the final lap. It was neutralized with about 1 lap to go. I'm not sure what happened after that with the amateur final. So they wrapped that up. Then we went into the running race, and then the women's race, won by Summer Moak, a fantastic sprint by her, outgunning, really out drag racing Sam Schneider, which is something that has not been done in a long time. And so got to give congratulations to Summer Moak. And, you know, good ride. You get to the point where the expectations are so high for Sam Schneider that it's a disappointment if she doesn't win. But honestly, it was a great sprint, a great ride. Second place got to be something that she's happy with. And she's been second here before 2 other times. So this is the 3rd time that Sam Schneider's been second at the Twilight Criterium. But congratulations to Rally Cycling and Summer Moak for that win. So the question is, 2019, who is going to be the winner in the pro men's race? As right now they are seeing 18 laps to go as Danny Summerhill is trying to hold off a group sitting right now. It's showing Owen Schott at 8 seconds, trying to be able to bridge across, and the rest of the group at 16. I'm going to guess maybe 80 riders left in the group. 150 riders were on the start line. Thinking, give or take, we're about 80 riders coming in with 18 laps to go. Cade Bickmore still there from Avolo Cycling. Good to be able to see him. Only rider from Avolo here. Tyler Stites pulled off a second place at El Paso. So that was a great result by him. Now Cade Bickmore races for Marion College. The young 20-year-old, the only Avolo rider here. Talked about the good form that Danny Summerhill had. He showed it at the Sunny King Criterium, riding all over the front of that race. But man, it's getting close now. 12 seconds it's coming down to. Owen Schott stuck in the middle at 7. Wow, getting down to crunch time. I'm not sure he's going to pull this off. Texas Roadhouse have played their cards, but riders getting closer and closer. What a ride by Owen Schott right now, trying to be able to bridge up to our one race leader. Talked about the win Owen Schott had yesterday, going away solo in Spartanburg, and that's exactly kind of in time trial mode that he's doing once again. They have him in his sights. They're tracking. The laser beams are on, and the missiles are out. I think that might be Thomas Gibbons. It is. So Thomas Gibbons bridging up. Now, these guys flew right there to turn number 1. That was a little bit of a risk. They knew they wanted to keep the momentum, but Thomas Gibbons now striking out. Your winner from Spartanburg, thinking about picking up some points. Now, I talked about Gibbons currently sitting in 6th place overall in the USA Crit Series. But again, Kevin Mullervy in first is here. Riders number 2 through 5 are not here. So Gibbons looking to try to get 200 points and possibly take over the USA Crits jersey. 2 years ago, Gibbons was racing in Europe for the Wanty Group, came back over and has been racing here in the U.S. He's already got a win this year at the Swamp Classic Criterium. He also won the Bike Link Criterium in Miami, and now he wants to put an Athens Twilight Criterium. Look at it, he caught up to Owen Schott. That's Diaz from EDA Evolution, but everybody reacting to the alarm bells of Gibbons going up the road, and so they responded immediately, not allowing him to get too big of a gap. I think that's Schott who just went around. I don't know if he's going again. That is Owen Schott taking off one more time. The rider for Velobrew Racing, he's already been out there for 5 laps trying to bring back Summerhill. I don't know how he had the legs to be able to give it one more time, but that's exactly what he's doing. Coming off of racing at Joe Martin Stage Race, so you got 4 days of racing, building up that power and the speed. Now Schott's starting to struggle a little bit. He's coming off the back. He already had a win yesterday at Spartanburg in the Masters race. Schott winning the 35-plus Masters race yesterday in Spartanburg, deciding to give it a shot here in Athens as is that Diaz? Yes, that is. That's Diaz coming across. Ed Veal, I think, in a 3rd position there in that black jersey. Kyle Perry marking the move also from Texas Roadhouse. And then Andrew Janot. Got to watch out for Andrew Janot. He's going to be a factor in this. Now, Fisher Maris coming out of nowhere. Maris racing for Kelly Benefit Strategies Elite, doing a great job to latch on to the back of those 4 other riders. Kelly Benefit Strategy Elite with the green shorts on, the 22-year-old Category 2 rider making his mark, trying to be able to latch onto these guys, going right around some of the other guys. So Morris doing a great job right now as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 riders only with about a 2-second gap. Kyle Perry, man, what a race he has had. Been riding on the front, patrolling everything, and still up there, following the moves. And this is as it's getting more and more difficult because look at the gaps that are opening up. Frank Travieso, I think, coming across the bridge from the front of the main pack as he's trying to be able to make his way up to the leaders right now. 13 laps to go. A lot of looking over the shoulder right now. John Borselman already with 4 wins this year in 2019 for Mark Pro Cycling. He is sitting to about 6th or 7th position. Look at Keel Campbell. I think he's in there also. Oh, he's struggling, man. He's practically kissing his stem. He just had to sit up. He couldn't do it. He could not close the gap because Summerhill is on the front drilling it. And again, it's that uphill. That uphill is going to wear on you as these guys are flying around turn number 1. 3 riders starting to go away. I think Frank the Tank has made it into the back of that group. No, that's Diaz. Once again, EDA Evolution marking this. So Roderick Diaz, we talked about these guys from EDA Evolution all having a track background, and that's coming in very handy right now. Left-hand turns, very similar to riding on the track. It's not really turns, you just kind of go left all the time. Couple more Mark Pro riders on the back. So you got Mark Pro riders near the front, Mark Pro riders off the back. New riders coming up to the front to keep the pace going as we're seeing 12 laps to go. Owen Schott drifting back to about 20th position. Cade Bickmore from Avolo starting to move up. Owen Gillett with the pink from CCB starting to be able to move up. He's sitting about 10th position. Keel Campbell in the red and black. He's had a good ride so far. So I've talked about Keel Campbell a few times racing for the North Georgia Cycling Association. 24 years old, top 10 in Athens last year. He was actually 9th here. He's in the red and the black. Keeps finding himself in a good position. Hanging in there, going through right there with the red helmet on. Mark Pro now is coming through there. Thomas Gibbons just in front of him. Man, the riders that are left in this race turning into a who's list of Criterium riders, and that's being led by Kyle Perry coming through right there. Then it's Ed Veal, Thomas Gibbons, Holloway is right there. There's Joe Lewis, 3rd yesterday in Spartanburg. So Joe Lewis, good sprinter Joe Lewis also. Got to be able to watch out for him. Talked about Joe Lewis, 30 years old, out of Boulder, Colorado. They're only going to see the home stretch 10 more times, and then the Athens Twilight Criterium will block off the streets for the podium for the women and the men. Crowd's going crazy as they're cheering all of these riders on. They're banging on the boards. The music is playing. The beer is flowing. You can see, for some reason, well, not for some reason, our camera guy is right in the opening where people can cross the street, so he's filming them. You can see one of the Cliff Bars telling them to kind of back off the way, and they're hugging that far right-hand side because that's the line they have to take a little bit later on to be able to get ready to set up for turn number 1. A lot of Texas Roadhouse guys all kind of around each other, looking at each other, kind of. Butcher Box also, you can see them starting to be able to join forces, and that's what's going to happen right now. Teams joining forces. Looks like Gutenplan Coaching, they're getting excited. Starting to be able to move up into solid green jerseys. For David Gutenplan, if he could take some points here, that would be really good in him trying to defend his title. That's him. Sorry, that's Frank Travieso in 4th position. He's got a teammate right in front of him. So EDA Evolution of the rise in the neon with the gray shorts attacking right now. I'm thinking that is Diaz going up to Owen Schott once again. The 39-year-old Owen Schott not giving up. He continues to attack. John Harris talking with Steve Cullen, the director from Butcher Box, talking about how he has a lot of faith and he thinks John Harris can be the one for them. And so this is a nice move with 8 laps to go. You want 3 strong riders? This is 3 strong riders. Now, Texas Roadhouse has to chase this down. They cannot be caught on their back heels. And I'm actually surprised with how strong Texas Roadhouse has been that other teams are not sitting back waiting for them to bridge across. Allow Texas Roadhouse to be able to do the work. They've controlled this race so far from beginning almost to end. You might as well let them finish it off. I can't imagine they're going to let this group go up the road. Seven laps to go. Love to be able to say 7 seconds, but it's not. So 7 laps to go, only at about 4 seconds. John Harris, strong rider on the front right now from Butcher Box coming through. Then we have Owen Schott sitting on the back of them, along with Roderick Diaz. Talked about the EDA Evolution riders coming off of just riding at the Tour of Uruguay, and that's exactly what Roderick Diaz has done. He just finished Tour of Uruguay, which ended April 21st. So only about a week ago, Tour of Uruguay has finished up, and He was second on 2 different stages at Tour of Uruguay. So Diaz on the front here at Athens. In case you're wondering, Tour of Uruguay, 10 stages long. Diaz finished the whole entire race, and right now on the front, EDA Evolution trying to be able to win the race for EDA Evolution, but Frank Travieso, I'm sure he's the one that would really like to be able to win it, but man, when you have a teammate up there, what are you going to do? And Owen Schott, absolutely no sprint, has to be able to get away, has to be able to break away, has to be able to have this break succeed, and he is drilling it as Owen Schott right now trying to be able to keep this going. And then John Harris, a little bit more of the unknown. John Harris coming over from CCB cycling team. Been riding strong, has had some good success this year in 2019. Looking to capitalize on that. As these riders right now are sitting at about 8 seconds, so it's holding steady. Actually, it's not holding steady. It was at 3 or 4 seconds 3 laps ago. It's actually going up. This is what I was waiting for. Texas Roadhouse. They've done so much work through this entire race, and if they let this just ride away from them, it would be a complete shame. Now I'm kind of surprised because you had Summerhill, who was out there for a long time. Now, if anything, Holloway can sit on and rest. The other riders can sit on and rest. But Summerhill, again, after being out there for about 20 laps on his own, is on the attack. 4 laps to go. Has to bridge 8 seconds as Ed Veal and the Toronto Hustle, or excuse me, I think that's the Toronto Hustle that's on the front right now. Crowd is clapping, they're cheering him on. It's going to be 3 laps to go when they come around. Pack is just behind him. Look at Summerhill. Can he bridge across? Participating in that track program, looking for the fitness to be able to bring things home. We talked about Sonny King Criterium, how strong he was there. Crashed himself out going into warp speed into turn number 3 at Sonny King. John Harris, his director, called it. He said he was going to be there at the end. Danny Summerhill has made it up there. Roderick Diaz from EDA Evolution and Owen Schott. Unbelievable. One more chance and one more try as Danny Summerhill. Harris trying to force Owen Schott to be able to do the chasing. Nice move. Little bit of a gamble right now because you got to rely on Schott being able to shut this down. And if Schott can do the work for John Harris, Harris will have a chance. But it looks like coming up with Bell Lap and 1 lap to go. How much cat and mouse? Diaz does not want to be able to go through. Summerhill flicking the elbow once, flicking the elbow twice. Looking over at him, almost screaming at him, and Diaz now out of the saddle. Not really an attack, just kind of keeping the momentum going, realizing he's got a gap, but look at that. the Uruguayan rider, coming over here, riding the Athens Twilight Criterium for the very first time. Now is a chance for victory, but he has to snag it from Danny Summerhill. Last year, a ton of great form early season. Had a bad crash. Now Summerhill, a flick of the elbow from Diaz. Another flick of the elbow. Now Summerhill, I don't think Summerhill has the legs. I think Summerhill is riding this to try to just stay away from the other two riders, as Diaz now is going to sit on the back. Owen Schott not giving up from Velobrew. Again, John Harris could have the perfect ride. Can this play out in Butcher Box's favor? Diaz and Summerhill coming into the last turn. Summerhill, one more glance over the shoulder, and now it's going to be the sprint. You got to wait a little bit. It's a long ways, and it's uphill. The headwind's not going to be much of a factor right now. Diaz trying to be able to go by, and Diaz, he's on the front. Roderick Diaz, EDA Evolution's taking the 2019 Athens Twilight Criterium. Unbelievable. Wow, and Twilight Criterium second place going to Danny Summerhill, with Gibbons coming in fourth, and I'm not sure, no, that's Holloway there. Might be Kyle Perry taking a top five. So Diaz, Summerhill, John Harris, then Owen Schott, Thomas Gibbons in fifth. Unbelievable, but Diaz jumped first, and once he got the gap, I knew Summerhill, after putting that huge effort, riding almost 30 laps by himself, just not having the snap to finish it off. But man, what a ride by EDA Evolution's Diaz, the Uruguayan, taking home the 2019 race here in downtown Athens, Georgia. Wow, congratulations to all of the riders. This turned out pretty good, exciting race with a lot of activity, and I'm telling you, some unknowns were out there, including Holloway, if he was going to be able to make it, or Summerhill, if he was going to be able to make it. As we see one more time, the replay, the crowd, everybody cheering on the final sprint to be able to cross the line in 1 hour and 51 minutes. John Harris coming across in third. Man, if Owen Schott could have just shut down that gap a little bit more, Harris would have had a chance for victory, but Butcherbox has to be happy with that. So, if we're going to look at Diaz, that doesn't have any points in the USA Crit Series, really I got to go back to Akil Campbell, ninth again. Second year in a row for Akil Campbell to be able to finish up with points. Luke Keogh now picking up some points. Luke Keogh was in seventh, so it was his 200 points. Oh, Gibbons was in front of him. So Gibbons, and I'm not seeing where Mullervy. So unofficially, I'm going to say Gibbons takes over the USA Crits Series jersey. Something that he did 2 years ago, and he actually took it over at Winston-Salem. Thomas Gibbons then was riding the rest of the series by himself, ended up not being able to attend Boise, and that's where he lost the jersey. But for 2 races, Thomas Gibbons, wearing the USA Crits Leaders jersey, held on to the lead for 2 races as a one-man team. And right now, he's about to become a one-man team if he takes the USA Crits jersey with a 3-rider team, because he has Chad Conley on that brand-new automatic racing team. But the celebration's on the street with EDA Evolution, Roderick Diaz, and so we're going to go down to Chad Andrews, our stage announcer, for interview the winner, do our women's podium, do our men's podium, and to sign us off for the rest of the night. My name is Frank Andreu. I hope you enjoyed the USA Crit Series race number 2 here at the Athens Twilight Criterium. It's 40 years of gears, and what an action-packed race we had. We look forward to you joining us for the following races. And again, in 2 weeks, May 25th, we'll be in Winston-Salem. And so for now, let's go down to the course with Chad Andrews and get the sights and sounds of the Athens Twilight Criterium.
The incredible sights and sounds of the Athens Orthopedic Twilight Criterium continued on its 40th anniversary. Immediately on lap number 1, Daniel Holloway, a two-time winner of Athens from Texas Roadhouse, broke away, building up a maximum lead of 23 seconds, after spending almost 40 laps off the front of the race, which ultimately earned him the Bike Reg Lap Leaders jersey. With 59 laps remaining, a crash containing about 30 riders neutralized the race, and when the racing resumed, the counterattack came from Danny Summerhill before Thomas Gibbons from Automatic Racing and Owen Schott Velobrew bridged to the leader. On the final lap, it became a two-up sprint between Diaz and Summerhill, and the rider from Uruguay, with the fresher legs and the speed, took the 2019 Athens Twilight win, with Danny Summerhill, Texas Roadhouse in second, and John Harris, Butcher Box, in third.
With his fifth place finish, Thomas Gibbons from Automatic Racing took over the Colavita Leaders jersey, and the aggressive racing all night from Summerhill and Holloway secured Texas Roadhouse the team competition.